Hey Bayek, it's me Ian, and in today's video, well, I'm continuing my look at classic albums, which are in my CD collection, and I just love, because they're classic albums to me, all of them. So, this is Moondance by Van Morrison from 1970, and this is his third studio album, and this is a major important part of his development as an artist. This is a real massive turning point album. Now, his career began with them, who were formed in 1964. They were Northern Irish, successful, relatively successful, and Gloria is obviously one of those tracks that stands out. Morrison, he left, and in 1967 recorded his first solo album, as well as his single. The solo album was called Blowing Your Mind, and it was on Bang Records. Now, Brown Eyed Girl, that was a massive sort of single, really, for him. Unfortunately, the producer, Bert Burns, died very soon after that, and Morrison had to look for another label, and Warner Brothers he did sign with. They were interested in him, and his second studio album was Astral Weeks. Now, Astral Weeks nowadays is, well, it's revered quite a bit. That's 1968. And I can see why, but I think this is the better album. Yes, I'm going to say it. This, though that has now a lot of praise, and I can see why. This was the album that was so important, really, to his whole career. Astral Weeks, it just didn't seem to suit what he wanted, and it wasn't a hit. As an album, at the time, it wasn't selling enough records. It was, you could say, almost a flop, really. As he said, he saw that it wasn't selling enough. It wouldn't pay the bills. That's how you had to look at it in terms of that, and his career as well. And I think the reason why some of the songs were not quite fitted to commercial success, but also it's not just that. It's the album needed something. I think a more direction, really, musical direction, and he got that in this because he looked and assessed himself, and he got the musicians around him. So that is kind of the background to this album, that this is an important album for him, and he needs to change from this Astral Weeks album, which he does. He decides his writing approach will be different. The songs have a more soul, pop, jazz, folk. It's all in there, and it's stronger. It's stronger. It is actually another good way of describing this album. It's got a more joyous feeling about it. It's upbeat. It's more celebratory. It's more worldly. Yes, and this is what this album brings. You still have that sort of spiritual seeking side, but now it's got a worldly feel to it. It's got a soul feel to it. It's got all these ingredients which create this wonderful classic album. So, it was recorded between August and September 1969, released the 27th of January 1970. It was recorded at the A&R Studio, New York, and of course the label is Warner Brothers. So it's an important point. He's got to really now get the success. The label is still there backing him, but he needs success, definitely. And he decides as well to produce this album himself. He couldn't find the right producer that he felt would bring out what he wanted, and he developed his techniques very much working with the musicians, and his talent was already there. He had a direction. I think he knew exactly what he wanted, and that comes out in this brilliant production that he does. It's absolutely fantastic. So, as I say, he wants a more accessible and appealing sound. And he gets those kind of musicians around him that will bring that in New York. And he's still kind of looking at Dylan. Dylan's a hero in many ways of what he was doing. And he wanted to be, yes, influenced in some ways by him, but have this, I think, a more joyous approach to what he was doing. A lighter, more not an heavy approach. Anyhow, the musicians, well, we'll go through who there is. Of course, we've got Van Morrison himself, who plays harmonica, guitar, tambourine, and the vocals. And then we've got 3 backing singers. I'll mention them straight away because they add quite a lot to it on these 2 tracks that we'll talk about. We've got Judy Clay and we've got Emily Houston. And we've got Jackie Verdell. Now, they contribute backing vocals on Crazy Love and Brand New Day, these 2 tracks. And they absolutely light the tracks up with this wonderful, soulful feeling. Oh, it's wonderful. And yeah, I'm going off there. But so we've got those backing singers. Then on bass, we've got John Klinberg, bass player. We've got Jeff Labes. No, Jeff Labes, I think that's how you pronounce it. Jeff Labes. He's the keyboard player, clavinet. Yes, clavinet. That's a keyboard. An organ and piano. Then we've got Gary Malber, who plays the drums, percussion, and the vibraphone. Then we've got Gary Masson, who plays the congas. Then we've got John Platinia, who plays guitar. And also we've got Jack Schroer, Jack Schroer, who plays the alto and soprano saxophones. Yeah, they're very important as well. So these are wonderful musicians. He really trusts these musicians, and he's in the studio and he's got these songs that he's got in his mind, and he develops the songs as well in the recording sessions as they're playing and recording. And so the album is evolving around these musicians, which is fantastic. that works so well. You can feel that in the music, the whole joy of it, the whole wonder of it. Now the album cover is interesting. It was a photo shoot at his house by Elliot Landy. Now Elliot Landy, here we are, has a connection with Bob Dylan because he did the cover for Nashville's Skyline album in 1969. So that's a nice link, a very nice link already that we've got. Okay, so now let's go through some of the tracks. We've got the opener is "And It Stoned Me." It's like a celebration already as we get into the album about nature, because nature is very much within the natural world and the humans' connections with nature, and it's got this wonderful feeling. It's not the spiritual side anymore. It's a more earthier sound, but celebrating. And of course we got Moondance, which you could argue is again, it's happy. It's wonderful the way it goes, and you're looking back to that sort of mystical folk side, but then you've got this earthy, wonderful celebration. Moondance is beautiful song, and then we've got Crazy Love. I mentioned that before. This is with those backing vocals, and wow, this is like soul, beautiful soul. Oh, what a song. Morrison's voice, he just lets it go there. Oh, yeah. And then Caravan. Again, that has certain feelings about longings and nature and everything. Beautiful. And then, interestingly, the next track, Into the Mystic. So, we're talking about the mystical side, but again, it's not like Astral Weeks. On Astral Weeks, it wouldn't have gone in this direction at all. Musically, it's beautiful the way he's doing it. Then we've got Come Running. Again, wonderful. And then These Dreams of You. Beautiful tracks. Just following the same kind of feeling and this happy feeling. And then we get to Brand New Day. Brand New Day, again, is the second track with these backing vocals which stand out so much. They're just beautiful, so soulful, wonderful. Then the album just continues and to end in this high celebratory nature. We've got Everyone, and then it ends with a wonderful Glad Tidings. I mean, all these tracks beautifully linked together. Morrison's writings, he's still on about love, relationships, but he's also looking at the world around him as well and what is going on. He's not necessarily seeing the darker things that are beginning to just happen because he's in New York, but, in Northern Ireland, of course, the Troubles are beginning in 1969. So those dark clouds haven't quite really got there. This album it's earthly, but it's a celebration kind of thing. It's not seeing the dark side. And it's wonderful for this. And that's why when you contrast it with Astral Weeks, you can't help but absolutely love this album. Astral Weeks is an enjoyable album, and it's got some great tracks, great ideas. But for me, over the years, I've listened to this album, and I can't help but love it for that reason. That it's almost like a white soul album, but it isn't, and it is. It's a mixture of it's got that feel, but I say it's got the jazz, the folk. Even a bit of rock almost. It's all there put in. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I can't talk about this album enough because it's like one of those albums. If you're feeling down, you put this album on. You get up there and you enjoy life. It's just like the celebration of life in an earthly way. not in a sort of spiritual kind of mystical way. The mystic has landed on Earth, and it's here now, and that's why this album works so well. Absolutely, and it is the classic for me. It's an absolute classic, and I can see why people now really appreciate and love this album like I do. Yes, I hope I've given you an idea, well, of how good this album is. I know you can see the there, but here it is, the actual CD. But there it is. There's the back with our track listing and some line notes on there about this album. And there inside, wonderful, isn't it? In this wonderful, beautiful album, fantastic. It is a classic, and I'm so pleased to have it in my collection as always. I've had it a few years now, this, and wonderful. And that's it. I better go now. I could just go on a bit of loving. But anyhow, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and we'll let you know when I put out these videos. And if you want to know more about the music sort of reviews and music things, just have a look in my playlist. You'll see all the music stuff that I've done. But I do so much more than that. I really do. I do a lot about films, loads about films and TV shows, and with a nostalgic bent, as you might have guessed, with all these album reviews. It's old stuff, an oldie. Yes, if you like this video, please give it a like, because it gets it out to YouTube and algorithms and all that stuff. And if you've got any comments, please put your comments down. I love to read your comments and what you think about all this. Yes, what you think of Van Morrison and this album. Please tell me what you think. You perhaps don't agree with me, but I love it. Anyhow, that's it, I think. That's it. So, all I've got to say is, I'll see thee again.